Hey, I'm JRLA, and welcome to the Level Up Business Podcast. What if the real strategy for growth in your business starts at home? Well, that's what today's guests, James and Rebecca Lockwood, and I are going to talk about. James and Rebecca are the founders of Thrive Together, a framework for helping entrepreneurial couples align around vision, values, and intentional rhythms that fuel both their business as well as their marriage. And after nearly a decade of drifting apart themselves, James and Rebecca built a system to grow stronger together, and now they teach other couples to do the same so that they too can thrive together. But before we unlock James and Rebecca's unique wisdom, are you a visionary entrepreneur who wants to stand apart? You want to be seen, you want to be known, you want to be heard by your ideal clients so that you can take your business to the next level? If this is you, if you are that visionary entrepreneur, I invite you to text me, 832-240-1922. Text me because I want to teach you how to unlock your wisdom, amplify your voice, and publish your book with the Level Up Business OS. The Level Up Business OS is the publishing system that coaches you to help you elevate your brand, expand your influence, and most importantly, increase your impact as a visionary entrepreneur. Now, let's get ready to learn. Let's get ready to grow. Let's get ready to level up together with James and Rebecca Lockwood. Rebecca, James, I am so excited for our conversation today. And before we start diving into Thrive Together, which I love that framing, thriving.
Thank you.
What's been going well for the two of you? Give me something good personally, professionally, your pick to get started on a positive note.
Yeah, well, I guess maybe the first thing that comes to mind with that question is we just picked up our kids from camp. So our son was 6 weeks in the wilderness of northern Canada doing some canoeing, and our daughter goes to camp in North Carolina for 5 weeks. So we were spending some awesome time together, and then now we're pretty excited to be back together as a family unit.
Yeah, 11,400 miles later. It's just to throw that out there. That's the one went to North Carolina, and the other one was 5 hours north of Toronto. So we got some miles in. And I guess for me, a positive frame would be just where we're located right now. I think our lifestyle is just, we spend winter skiing in Breckenridge, and I spend the winter trying to keep up with my kids. And now we're in the Pacific Northwest and just strolling down the coast towards Oregon right now. So super excited about. We're right here on the beach and a road, actually. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but
well, James, I think it's interesting, for context for those watching or listening, when you talk about your lifestyle. What do you mean by that? Because you're dropping a little hints here and there. You've got all of these miles you're putting on. How are you doing this? What does this lifestyle mean to the two of you with your kids?
About 4 years ago, we decided, it was actually in COVID. We were homeschooling kids as everyone else was in the world. And we just decided to pack up, go in our, at the time, small travel trailer. We did 43 national parks, 32 states. And so we've been on the road for 3 of the last 4 years. We're back on the road for about a year now. And so now we have a larger fifth wheel that we tow and kind of go where we like to chase 70, except for the winter when we decide to chase real cold and
powder.
Ski season.
We
chase powder, yeah.
But we did take a little sabbatical in the middle. The kids said, hey, we've had enough of traveling. Okay, so we went, bought a house, redid it, moved back in again. And then the kids decided in a meeting that they missed being on the road and school sucked because it was just way too long. And they want to go back on the road again. So hence, we're back on the road again.
It's so interesting because I remember in that COVID experience, I had a dream, and we weren't fully aligned on this as a family. I think it was me and Louvienne, who is turning 11 now. We were like, let's get an RV, let's get on the road, let's just go travel America and just see what is out there. And we have 4 kids. And so the idea was overwhelming my wife of 4 kids, 6 of us together in an RV. And she goes, let's just put that on hold. We'll come back and revisit that. Now, when you mentioned the national parks, did you ever get down to Texas, to Big Bend?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did Big Bend. Yeah. It's awesome.
Okay. I grew up in Texas. I grew up in Houston.
Yeah.
we went out to Big Bend last October because last year we called it the 12 months of Christmas. And instead of doing gifts, we were like, you know what, we're going to do 12 different experiences, one per month as a family. Something as small as, doing cookies with a lady in the neighborhood who decorates cookies, to went out to Big Bend. We took some other small little road trips here and there. But Big Bend was one that, like, it really reshaped my perspective of, like, Texas. I didn't know Texas had mountains. Like, I'd never been, past San Antonio on I-10.
Yeah.
And when I got out there and we get down, my kids were like, Dad, if you say another word about how beautiful this is, because I would not shut up. I'm like, and then I drove the whole way. We drove all the way. It was just amazing. It was beautiful. And I mean, it really, like, that last year, that experience, the 12 months of Christmas, if you will, brought us, I would say, closer together as a family. I mean, we're doing more experiences. We're continuing that routine, that habit. And it brings us to this point of thriving. Because I think about this from a couple of different angles. I think about you're dying, you're surviving, you're growing, you're thriving. Those are different levels. And you can transition and probably move back and forth, and that can be the work you're doing as an entrepreneur. That can be what you're seeing with your clients. That can be what your experience as a family. That can be what your experience as a couple. And when I look back on my 23 years as an entrepreneur, I think the biggest challenge that I've experienced, one of the biggest ones, it's not to do with the quote unquote the work. It's the conflict. It's and this has probably been something that I've seen over the last maybe 3 to 5 years, and becoming more aware of it. But it's the conflict. It's the conflict at home. It's the conflict with my wife. It's the conflict we have as a couple. And because that conflict begins to spill over into the kids, the family, that conflict begins to spill over into the work. It takes an impact on the relationships that you have professionally. And it took my wife and I a lot of external help. I mean, October 4th, 2012, she said that she was going to leave me. The business was thriving back then. We were dying. So there was this juxtaposition. And we got a lot of help. We moved through it. We started to grow again. We started to thrive again. And that's why I'm excited to talk about the work you're doing, with Thrive Together. And I always like to understand the why. Why go down this path? What inspired Thrive Together to begin with? What's the story behind the story here?
Go ahead.
I think similar to your story, I think we were in a similar place like that, where we had a choice to make one day, and we'd just drifted apart. Rebecca was a very successful business coach teaching, I think it was EOS at the time, and I was the stay-at-home dad, so the rock that held the family together, and we'd just gone down different rivers and become different people, and we hadn't invested time into us, the time necessary into us. I think you look at Hollywood and you look at social media, and relationships should just be effortless. You fall in love, you live happily ever after, you maybe throw in a few kids along the way, and that's life. And it's not like that at all. I think it took me a long time to realize that we need to invest in the relationship if we want a relationship that's worth building together. And
I think it's interesting that you say conflict, because there's so much conflict, right? There's conflict between your business and your personal life, your marriage, your family, right? Everything's pulling at your attention. And I think when you start to get really good at healthy conflict, that's where the real magic happens. You start putting the problems in front of you to solve together instead of in between you. And you start having the conversations that you were avoiding, and those conversations and in that conflict is where the future and success is.
Well, I think the whole idea originated from, you were teaching businesses how to succeed, and you were very successful at doing that.
And I was feeling like a complete failure on the home front, sort of. I can teach teams to talk together, and I can't come home and talk to my husband, about the things that matter. So that was where it was born, where the operating system was born, and We started really taking a lot of these tools that I was using with my clients and started using them with each other. Doing the Colby and understanding how we operate. I'm a 9 quick start and he's a 2, so you can
Oh my
imagine.
goodness. So you're ready to go, and James, what are you, initiating fact finding or follow through?
Yeah, I'm devil's in the details,
Oh, yes.
Actually, it's funny, the trip about, moving into our RV, I actually asked James about this right after COVID happened and suggested it. And, he was very against it at the time. And funny enough, like 2 months later, he comes back. He's like, okay, I've got the plan. This is what we can do. Figured it out. And I was like, I could kind of already forgotten about that idea, right? I had moved on. So it's been really interesting. We do so much in our business to understand each other, to operate a great business, to achieve the goals that are important, to understand our why and what are we doing and why is it important. And we didn't have that playbook in marriage, why we were together and what was important and what our values were and what we wanted to achieve together and individually and how we can support each other.
I mean, we always talk about it like, imagine a business that doesn't have annual meetings, doesn't have weekly meetings, goals, doesn't invest time, in team health. That business is failing. They're out of business in 12 months. So why
It's dying. It's dying.
Why wouldn't you put that same intentionality to your relationship?
Yeah.
It goes back to your pendulum, right? Of surviving, thriving, growth. Love it.
Yeah, dying, surviving, growing, thriving.
Yeah.
And it's a spectrum. And as you both are sharing your perspective, and I appreciate you opening up, because I think for me, a lot of times, the conflict in my life, I feel like I'm the only one, or as a couple, it's like we're the only ones that are struggling. We're the only ones that are surviving or dying. Mm-hmm. And we want to move from that into the growth and into thriving. And you both shared 2 things from a framework that I use. And the question is, who's on your team? And one of you mentioned time, and one of you mentioned attention and the intentionality behind that. And we can look at time as an investment. I think a lot of times we incorrectly think of, well, how am I spending my time? And I look at time. No, time becomes an investment. Time is a multiplier. If you invest your time, you're going to get a payoff that could be exponential to the investment of the time. Energy, though, when you come back to the idea of Colby, energy is an expenditure. It's like you're going to spend your energy, and we know this with Colby. Like if you're initiating quick start, you can do the fact finding work or you can do the follow through, but you're gonna feel that energy expenditure much more quickly, and then you're gonna have to go back and recharge. Where then you look at attention. What are we paying attention to? We pay with our attention, and then all of that, the time, the energy, the attention, that then really can encapsulate into the relationship that we have with money. That becomes another tool. So time, energy, attention, money. But the other thing that you mentioned too is connection, conversation, and not all conflict is bad. It took me a long time to realize and understand that myself. It took me a lot of marriage therapy and personal just coaching, counseling myself, because I grew up in a family that was conflict adverse. Never saw my parents fight, ever. Didn't know how to deal with conflict, especially interrelationally. That even popped up in my entrepreneurial journey too. So when we talk about conflict and the work that you see with Thrive Together, what are the biggest barriers, the biggest challenges, the biggest obstacles that you're helping couples navigate to move from, I'll use my lens, from dying or surviving to then growing and then ultimately to thriving?
I think one of the elements in our model is mindset. And I think that how you think about conflict is critical. So when we talk with couples, right, we start with mindset, because I love this quote. It's actually a Dan Sullivan quote, and he says something along the lines of, your business can only grow to your level of thinking. And I really believe that applies with your marriage too. So I think as you think about conflict, right, how are you approaching conflict? Is an issue just an issue, right? Or are we making it personal? Are we making it mean something that maybe it doesn't mean? So I think for us, really talking about how are you showing up and what is your problem solving mindset is super critical. If an issue is just that, an issue, it's something that's getting in the way of us either achieving our goals, of us connecting, how can we talk about it and come up with a solution?
I think as well, if I look at our framework, we do a lot of work in vision to start with. At the end of our program, you walk away with a 2-page vision and plan, and it's so powerful to see couples go through that vision page and not be on the same page, to think that they're heading in the same direction and they're not heading in the same direction, because the power really happens when you write it down. Like I'd love to tell anybody today, just take the time and map out together as a couple, where do you want to be in 10 years? Where do you want to be in 3 years? Where do you want to be in a year? Because then the arguments are no longer about your way or my way. It's, do we get to that end goal? Does all the noise cancel out and we just push it to one side? And does that issue get us to our tenure, or does it move us further away?
Is it aligned with our values, right? Or not? It sort of takes away some of the emotion and gives you this roadmap or this decision-making filter.
You mentioned Dan, and as you're talking through this, it reminds me like this idea of vision. And one of the things, Dan, always make your future bigger than your past. And because the moment that your past becomes bigger than your future, you begin the decline to probably surviving and then ultimately dying. And we've lived that ourselves. We were 100% aligned when we first got married, and we were writing things down. We were writing the future. We had written goals, and then we started having kids. And then I think, to use your analogy, it's like we were on just two completely different rivers. And when you're talking about an issue, it makes me think about, and Rebecca, you had mentioned this before, you remove the issue from in between and then you put it in front of you, the obstacle, for example. And it makes me think about like a mountain. Like the mountain can be in between you, or you put the mountain in front of you. And when you put the mountain in front of you, that's when you can begin to climb the mountain together. Yeah. And when you come back to your point about vision here, the higher you ascend on the mountain, the higher you elevate, the better your vision becomes, to where you can see where you've been. You can look down to see where you're at, and then you can look ahead to see, hey, that's the next mountain that we're going to climb together. It's not going to come in between us, but it's like we've got a bigger future there ahead of us. When you think about the work you're doing, and you're helping them to work on mindset, you're helping them to clarify vision. They come away with a 2-pager here. What happens next? Because okay, great, we're aligned, we're unified, we've got things written down. Then what?
So it's funny because James and I had done a few like couples retreats, and there's so much energy and momentum, but then you leave and that book gets put on the shelf, and what happens to it, right? All those notes. So this is a full-blown system, right? We literally have meetings once a week where we check in on our rocks, right? Our things that need to be done for the quarter. That's where it's this intentional space that now we're not having these one-off conversations throughout the week, right? We get to maximize our time together, and we get to have this space where we can talk about the things that we need. And then it's so interesting that you just talked about this idea of, climbing a mountain, looking back, right? Reevaluating, get oriented. We also do quarterly and annual meetings, right? No different than you do in your business. And it's truly amazing to take the time together. It's about pausing. And in those pauses, that's where you get to readjust, align, and march in the right direction together.
And I think when that's where it started, was with an annual meeting. Rebecca's like, let's have a family meeting. So we do a personal couples meeting, and I thought that sounded hideous. Like, who?
I'm about to say, what?
Who does that?
How did you respond to that?
It wasn't positive.
I was a stay-at-home parent. I had kids. I had your parents coming over for dinner, and you're telling me that you want to sit down and have a meeting. It's like, no, nobody does that. Like, but I think now our annual meeting, we do a 2-day in Brevard when we drop our daughter off. And it is the most amazing experience, and I couldn't imagine not planning out the next 365 days and planning out what the next 10 years looks like. And it's just a great feeling to leave that, moving in the same direction.
With important rituals. I love your 12 months of Christmas. It's awesome, right? It's like, it's the small things that make all the difference.
Why do, and once again, I think about, couples retreats and, you can make that investment, but it's like health. Like you go to the gym, New Year's, for example, everyone has the New Year's resolution. They go for a few times, but then slowly but surely we fall back to the old patterns, the old behaviors, the old habits. And what I think that is at a deeper level, we're falling just back to the old belief system.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if we want to change behavior, we have to change belief. And in between the belief to behavior spectrum, you've got the thoughts that we enumerate on. Those thoughts that influence our feelings and our emotional state, which become the actions that we repeat. And whenever I was writing my second book, Banking on Change, it blew my mind that some research was coming either out of Harvard or Stanford. Like 95% of what we do on a day-to-day basis runs at a subconscious level. We're not even consciously aware of our own day-to-day actions. And that's whether you're an entrepreneur growing your business, or you're in relationship and connecting as a couple or not. How does the rituals, the annual, the quarterly, all the way down to the weekly, and perhaps even like we think about
Really?
operation systems like Scrum. You have your daily stand-up and your check-in. How does that ensure continuous awareness into the belief to behavior spectrum?
I think the community's awesome that we have. I mean, my mind's going to the couple that fell off the wagon, and didn't have a single meeting during a quarter. But then the prompt to sit down and have a quarterly meeting, they jumped back on the bus again. They didn't waste the entire year to set New Year's resolutions. They jumped back on the bus reset all their quarterly goals. And, they still saved the other 3/4 of the year. And then there's the other couple that set their 3-year vision and target. And then we got an email from them saying, can we chat? And thinking, okay, so where are we going with this? We want to let you know we've finished our 3-year goals in 18 months. It's to go back to your point about intentionality and energy. Mm-hmm. I think the difference of what we do and what we've created is it keeps that energy front of mind. It keeps the focus. Within the community, I think a lot of people, it's inspiring to see other couples hit their goals and to get those shout outs and to see that people are really truly walking towards their dreams. It's just such an impactful journey that we've been on.
I mean, what's coming to mind for me is actually different than that. But what was coming to mind for me was about intention. It's like this, these small things, right? The weekly meeting, right? For James and I, it's coffee in the morning, before the day sort of takes over. The quarterlies and annuals, whatever you're doing, right? This discipline is creating the life that you want. And that, I think, it's the discipline that's creating.
I want to hop in there on that word discipline. It's actually one of our 7 virtues at Level Up Business, discipline. And I think discipline for too long has been looked at as a negative. Discipline is actually what creates freedom. Yes. Discipline creates freedom. When you discipline yourself to do the difficult things, you get to do the things that others only dream of. Yeah. But it's the discipline to do the hard things daily. But if you do it daily, it becomes easy.
And you talked about the idea of your belief system, right? It's the discipline to do the things even when you don't feel like it, right? Because you know that it's what's going to get you to the things that you want to do. So I truly believe discipline is what creates freedom, and I think we've tried to create a system that helps you to apply that discipline to your life so you can achieve the things you want to achieve and thrive.
Everybody wants the result. It's funny, I was in the dentist the other day and actually managed to have a conversation with the dentist, believe it or not, as he was moving around and operating. But the whole, he's reached a point in his practice where, everybody wants what he's got. He's got a thriving practice. He's got money in the bank. He's getting ready to retire. And he says, everybody wants that. But what nobody's seen is that he was telling me, I nearly filed for bankruptcy 3 times, as I was growing this practice. The sleepless nights, the people not showing up for work. Everybody wants the result and doesn't understand the work that went into
the discipline, right? That went into making that happen.
So when you think about a spectrum from dying to surviving to growing to thriving, I think it's discipline is what differentiates those who just dream and those who do it. And your dentist example is a great, it's perfect because no one saw the work that was going on in the dark. I literally was just having this conversation with my son the other day. He wants to do something really big, and I was like, build in the dark, do it in the dark. You can't keep coming to me to seek affirmation because the only affirmation is going to come from within yourself. You have to look from within.
Yeah.
And that's going to be you can come to me and I'll support you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to work and walk beside you. But you have to build in the dark too. But your point on community, we can't overlook that, because when you bring couples together, they're going to grow together, they're going to thrive together, they're going to elevate, they're going to level up together. James, Rebecca, as we wrap up here, what is the one thing that you would recommend another entrepreneur, that's who's watching, who's listening, do next? Something small so that they can, as a couple, continue to thrive together.
I think, if any of this resonated, with you, we've got a 2-page vision and plan, free resource on our website. Just dig into one of those things, right? Is it bucket list? Is it rituals, right? Your 12 months of Christmas. Like, what's the ritual that you guys can start together? Just starting to have those conversations and getting it down on paper, I think is a great place to start.
Map it out, get on the same page, and continue to learn, grow, level up, and thrive together. I appreciate the work that you're both doing to help others. Thank you again for tuning in to learn, to grow, to level up together with James and Rebecca Lockwood's Unique Wisdom. Before we wrap up, I have a question for you. Are you a visionary entrepreneur who wants to stand apart? Are you a visionary entrepreneur who wants to be seen? You want to be heard? You want to be known by your ideal clients so that you can take your business to the next level? If this is you, if you are that visionary entrepreneur, I invite you to text me, 832-240-1922. That's because I want to teach you how to unlock your wisdom, amplify your voice, publish your book. You can do all of this with the Level Up Business OS. The Level Up Business OS, it is the publishing system that coaches you to elevate your brand, expand your influence, and most importantly, increase your impact as a visionary entrepreneur.